Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 179. Today we're going to talk about Island Fortress. This is a game from FrostForge Games, and it was published jointly with Game Salute on Kickstarter. I believe last year. It's just kind of coming out now. Plays 2 to 4 players, about an hour, give or take. Basically what you're trying to do is build an island fortress. You're basically building a wall around this island, and you're doing it with other players sort of cooperatively, but you're trying to, you're in there for your own good, getting victory points, and you kind of want to time everything correctly so that you're going to be able to score the most points at different key moments in the game. So you're going to be scoring points during the game, and then also there's some end game points to be scored as well. The game has a lot of very sort of traditional Euro mechanics, but as a whole, it feels very unique in a sense. There's some tile laying as you place tiles on the wall. There's some roll cards that you're going to be playing. There's a little bit of blind bidding every round that you can do. And there's some, end game points. Whoever has the most gold, or treasure I should say, gets a little few bonus points. And then where you place your specific wall tiles, you're going to get some points like that. So let's talk a little bit about how the game works, how a round's going to work, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. So the first thing you're going to do is to set up the region boards. You're going to set up a specific amount based on the number of players. Each player is going to get 12 jade, which is basically the money, the little green tokens. You've got the little ones that are worth 1 and the bigger ones that are worth 3. And then each player is going to draw 5 favor cards, and they're going to keep 3. And they're going to use these to kind of score points and get little bonuses throughout the game. And in the first phase of every round, except for the first round, players are going to collect income. Normally they're only going to collect 3 jade, but you can get little bonuses to be able to collect more at subsequent rounds. And then the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to go into a petition phase. Players are going to take a certain amount of jade into their hand, make a closed fist, everybody's going to reveal the jade, and then whoever bids the most is going to pay the jade. Everybody else keeps the jade that they offered, and they're going to get the first player marker. They're going to get the first player marker as well as one of the little governor tiles. So each player has a stack of their own tiles that they're going to be able to use, and then there's also the governor tiles, which are neutral, and basically they acts as a sort of round counter. So depending on the number of players, you may have 11 or 12 in the stack of governor tiles. And then again, the winner of the auction at the beginning of each round is going to get one, and basically a free tile that they can place out on the board to maybe complete a row or a level or whatever. The other thing that's going to happen after winning the auction is 1 jade and 1 convict, and those are little small brown cubes, are going to go into the prison. So during the round, different actions are going to actually add convicts to this prison, and then there's an action that the players can take when they are satisfied with how many convicts which would act as workers. Then they can take an action to basically snag those and keep them for themselves. So speaking of actions, each player has 5 identical action cards, and each of those has a couple of different options that they can do. So basically each round is basically 3 turns. So a player will play an action card, and then everybody else will play an action card, then you'll play a second and then a third, and then you'll pick up the cards and then have another petition phase for an auction for first player. So let's talk about the different actions that you can do. So the first card you can see here is the treasure card, and on the top of that you can see you basically collect 3 jade. So this is sort of an income generating card. And the next action on the card lets us collect a treasure. Now we have to send 2 convicts to 2 separate prisons to do that, and then we'll collect a treasure and put that in our supply. Now every time you take a treasure in this game, you're going to get 1 point every time you do that. So there's a lot of other ways that you can collect treasures, and each time you do that you're going to get a bonus point. Now here we can see a recruiter card, and this one gives us a few options. The first thing you can do is actually recruit laborers, and those are the large fat blocks that you can use as workers. Basically there's 2 kinds of workers. There's the big old fat laborers, and then there's the small blocks which are convicts. So if you look at the chart there, you can buy any number of laborers up to 5 for 0, 1, 2, 4, or 6 jade. The next action on here is to collect 6 convicts. To do that, you've got to discard 2 of the laborers, the big fat cubes, and then you take 6 of the little cubes and put them into your supply. The last action here is to collect from the prison. And again, remember I said some of the actions that you're going to do, it's going to tell you on the card there to add a convict to the prison. And then somebody is going to see that build up and get a nice fat supply of them, play that, collect from the prison, and they're going to get kind of a bunch of free convicts that way. Next we can see the planner card, and the first option here is to buy wall blocks. So you don't start with any wall blocks in your supply. You've got to actually take an action to add them. And then once they're in there, then I can go ahead and build them and put them on the wall. Now the next action on here is to draw more favor cards, and I'll talk a little bit more about what these do in a second, but you can take this action to either draw 3 favor cards and keep 2, or you can choose to draw 5 and keep 1. And then the last action on here is to remove a reinforcement from one of the wall pieces, and these will get added when you actually play a favor card. So it's going to be sort of a little bit key where you add those reinforcements and things like that. You got to keep that in mind, and then you're going to want to remove them to kind of get them out of your way. Next we have the builder card, and the first option here is to actually build a wall. So when you do this, you can build 1 block that you have, or you can build 2. To build 2, you've got to pay a jade to basically pay for that extra one. Now depending which level you put the block in is going to cost you a certain amount of workers. And basically you're going to count the levels. So you've got 4 levels in a wall, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you basically take whatever level it is, multiply it by 2, and that's the amount of workers it costs. So level 1 costs you 2 workers, level 2 costs you 4, level 3 costs you 6, finally level 4 costs you 8. And when you pay with the workers, you can either pay with convicts or the big fat chunky laborers. When you use convicts, those are discarded immediately. But when you use laborers, you're actually only going to discard half of the laborers that you used. So if you had something that costed 4, you could use 2 convicts and 2 laborers. The convicts are going to disappear, but only half of the laborers you used are going to disappear, so only one of those is actually going to be discarded. The next action on the builder card is to play a completed favor card. So when you play this, you'll be able to put a favor card from your hand face up, show that you have a pattern of blocks matching the design on the favor card. Now these have to be your blocks only. They can't be other people's, they can't be a governor block. So you're going to show that, you're going to collect an immediate reward, and then it's possible that you'll have a permanent reward that will either let you collect an extra income every round, or basically add 1 automatically to any of your bids in the blind bid at the beginning of each round. The last action on here is to replace a pre-existing block. Now when you do that, it's actually going to cost you double what it would normally cost. So normally level 1 costs you 2 workers. If you're replacing a level 1 block, it's going to cost you 4. All the way up to level 4, which normally costs you 8 workers, is going to cost you 16. Now you can't replace a wall block with a reinforcement on it. Now I should say, very importantly, that you can't just build blocks kind of floating in space. If you build a level 2 block, there's got to be a level 1 block underneath it. And if you build a level 3 block, there's got to be a 2 and obviously a level 1 underneath that. So there is a, sort of a physical properties that, need to be obeyed here. Now the last card we're going to talk about is the Taskmaster. This has 2 actions on it. The first one is to move your Taskmaster. So everybody's Taskmaster is going to start in one of the regions, and then you can play this card to move to another region. Now all of these actions that you're going to do, where you can build blocks and things, is going to be dictated by where your Taskmaster is. So if your Taskmaster is on the right side, you can only build wall blocks on that side. And the second action on the Taskmaster card is to be able to repeat a previous roll. So again, each round you're going to have 3 basically rounds of playing cards. And if you had played, let's say, the builder action beforehand, you can play the Taskmaster card and then reactivate one of the cards that you had just played. So you can kind of use it twice in that sense. Now each card has a repeat cost under the bottom of it between 1 and 3 jade. So when you play the Taskmaster to reactivate a previously chosen roll, you've got to also pay that cost. Now it is possible on each of those 3 card plays, those 3 rounds during the turn, to be able to play 2 cards at once. So in the game you're going to be able to get these little tokens called buyback tokens. So what I could do is I could play, let's say, the builder card, and then on the second round I play the recruiter card. Well, immediately after playing the card, I can discard a buyback token, take that card back into my hand, and then play a second card in that same slot there. So you can play the same card or a different card, but you can do that at most once per card play. So you could theoretically have 6 cards that you play, 2 per each round during a turn. Now the Taskmaster also always has a buyback cost of 3 jade. Whenever you play the Taskmaster, you can immediately buy it back for 3 jade and then immediately play another card. So you're going to play the game until you run out of governor blocks. It's either going to be 11 or 12 rounds, or you completely fill up the entire wall. Now during the game you're going to score points by playing favorite cards, possibly getting bonus points there. And you're also going to score points by completing rows and levels. Now a row is any row, level 1, 2, or 3, that's specific to its own region. Whoever puts the last block there is going to get one of those buyback tokens. And then you're going to check and see who has the majority of their own blocks in that level. For level 1 you're going to get 3 points, for level 2, 6, and for level 3, 10 points. Now when you complete all the way across level 1, then you're just going to check the majority. Whoever has the majority is going to get a treasure token and then also a bonus point for getting the treasure token. Level 4 is kind of its own little weird level. Basically, whoever built a block at one of these little top towers on level 4 is just going to get 5 points, and then that's it. And then once the game's over, you're going to do a little bit of end-game scoring. First, you're going to count all your buyback chips. So if you didn't use your buyback chips, you're going to get 0, 1, 3, 6, or 10 points for having 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 buyback chips. And then each player is going to count the number of their blocks in each of the different regions, and then the area that they have the least amount, they're going to get 3 points per wall block. So if you had built all your wall blocks in one region and totally ignored a second region, then you're going to get 0 points. So that when you get to that final scoring, you're going to be able to get the most points out of it. Now that's kind of counter-active or counter-purposed to what you're normally trying to do, is, you know, build up and get majorities in the different regions and get lots of points, and then, you know, score those different favor shapes. So you kind of have these two things kind of conflicting that you need to balance out. And then each player is going to count the number of treasure tokens. Whoever has the most gets 3 points, or whoever's tied for the most gets 3 points. Whoever has the least or tied for the least loses 3. Then whoever has the most jade gets 3. And then you're going to add up all your workers, laborers, and convicts. Whoever has the most of those gets 3. And then whoever has the most points is the winner. So what do I like about this game? Well, I like it quite a bit. It has some things that remind me of two games that I really liked last year, Terra Mystica and CO2, in the fact that in those games you're kind of cooperating. In this one you're also kind of cooperating, but not really. It's not a co-op by any means, not even any stretch of the imagination. So what you're doing is you'll put some blocks down. Well, you don't want to put too many down because somebody else is going to jump in and end, you know, that row and score it. Now that's okay if you have a clear majority, but they may come in and build on top of yours and replace yours, and then they'll have the majority and they'll get that bonus buyback chip for completing that. So it has that real sort of tension, and the word for that is brinkmanship, where you're kind of both, you know, building up, or all three or whatever, building up, and then boom, the one guy kind of strikes at the right moment and gets the, you know, most benefit out of it. So you've got to really watch as people collect the wall blocks and they collect the workers, when, you know, you think they're about to go and make a nice strike and, you know, get as many points. And I like the timing aspect of that. I like the little combos you can do with the cards. You can, you know, play a card and then buy it back. That doesn't happen a whole lot because the buyback chips are pretty limited, but they're also worth a lot of points as well at the end of the game. That's a fair amount of points if you have a few of those. So it's a real, you know, weighty decision to choose to use that. And I do like the blind bid at the beginning. I'm not usually a big fan of blind bidding. I don't hate it, but some turns it can be very important to go first to get that governor block even, because that governor block you can just play for free. You can play it on any turn. You could be doing a recruit action and then say, okay, I'm going to put the governor block there. And you can put that anywhere. Your Taskmaster doesn't have to be on the region. You can just go and dump it in a spot that is, you know, on some other region that's going to sort of end somebody's little run of blocks, or maybe put it in the fourth top, you know, the top in the tower where you get the 5 points. You just put it there. You don't get the 5 points. You can only do that if it's your own block, but you can block somebody else from building there. So the whole jumping back and forth with the Taskmaster, and then kind of like, okay, they're out of blocks, they're out of workers, I'm going to jump over, build something, throw that governor block down, and then boom, I've kind of, you know, surprised everybody. I like that tension of jumping back and forth, and you know, also trying to score those favor cards at the same time, because you get those bonuses and things that'll help you with your income, which, you know, is not to be neglected. It helps you with your bidding. And some of those funkier shapes, you can score a fair amount of points with them. So there's that aspect to it too. And then I also mentioned the reinforcement chips that you put on top of where you've scored a favor. So what happens is you play the favor card and you score it. Then you have to choose one of the blocks that you used in the shape to put a reinforcement thing on. So you're going to put that, but you kind of want to put that next to somebody else, because they may be kind of halfway done with the shape, but if they overbuild your level 1 one, which is, you know, cheaper to build on, then they can easily score a nice shape. But if you put a reinforcement block kind of towards their blocks, then it's going to make it a little more difficult. They have to do more actions. You know, they got to remove the reinforcement block, and then on the next action they got to build over the top of it. So I like that as well, and it keeps you from kind of doubling up. If you got like a lucky draw of 2 of those favor cards that were almost, you know, exactly the same, you couldn't just score them like back to back very easily. So it's a very interesting game. It kind of reminds me in Puerto Rico in some ways, where you have this sort of timing, and as those convicts kind of collect on the ship, or in this case in the prison, you're going to, you know, take that opportunity to snag a bunch of free workers and all that kind of stuff. So that the timing aspects of Puerto Rico really kind of, this kind of really reminded me of that. And then again, you have this sort of brinkmanship, you know, kind of coexistence, symbiotic relationship thing as people are filling in all the different levels. So yeah, so I think this is an excellent little game. It plays 2 to 4. You can get a 5 and 6 player expansion, which I don't have, so I don't really know how that would go. But it's neat. So definitely take a look at it. It has a lot of cool different elements into it. Tile laying, you know, auction-y kind of mishmash of stuff, but it kind of works, and it feels strangely thematic as you're kind of like basically killing off the convicts to build up, but then you've got your real workers that, you know, you got to take a little bit more care of and things. So I enjoy this game quite a bit, so take a look at it. Thanks.